Hello. I think I should share my thoughts on Grants Pass's homeless and drug problem situation, and you can extend this to all of Oregon, really. And um, we just got over Measure 110, the failed drug legalization experiment, and now they've recriminalized small amounts of drugs. And I want to tell you why that is not going to help the homeless situation and why it's not going to help um, uh, the drug problem situation. Okay, first of all, um, I've heard numbers like I don't know if anybody really knows, but I've heard everywhere from 75% to 90% of the homeless people are in in Oregon are drug addicts or alcoholics. So whatever the number is, it's a big number. Let's say 75%. So the other 25%, the those that are handicapped or have mental problems, whatever, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the ones that are using drugs. And I want to give you some insight into the mind of 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 a drug addict. There's two kinds of drug addicts. There are drug addicts that want to get off drugs, and there are drug addicts that are tired of excuse me, I misspoke here. There are drug addicts that do not want to get off drugs, and there are drug addicts who are tired of it who do want to get off. Now, w- we do know this: when drugs were legal and people were getting uh, uh, written tickets and fines, less than 1% opted for treatment. Well, I I don't know, and I don't think anybody knows the number, but I would say based based on my personal experience that maybe uh, at least 90% of the people that are on drugs do not want to get off drugs. Um, they don't want any treatment. Do you remember that song by Amy Winehouse? They wanted me to go to rehab, and I said no, no, no. Well, that's their attitude. They they want to use drugs, and that 75% of the homeless population, you can't help them. They don't want any help, and that's what you're that's what you're dealing with. And so, or well, what is the solution to these people that don't want to stop using drugs? And the solution is pretty simple. You 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 put them in jail. Now, some people will say things like, "Oh, you don't put people in jail that have a brain disease, and people with a brain disease in jail." Well, first of all, it's not a brain disease. That's all nonsense. But it's 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 actually the kindest thing that you can do for them is to put them in jail, because while they're out on the street using, they're 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 subject to all kinds of they're subject to overdose and dying and et cetera, and all the problems that go along with that. Um, Oregon's law, small amounts of possession of drugs is now a penalty up to 180 days. Well, 180 days, in my opinion, is not long enough. In fact, in most jails, I don't know, I never went to jail in the Oregon system, but in most jails, if you get time off for good behavior. So if you get a sentence of 180 days, you're not going to really do 180 days. You're going to do less than that. And that's not long enough. You want you want people um, locked up long enough to dry them out, and maybe their minds will clear up, and maybe not. They might want to get off drugs. A lot of drug addicts just look at going to jail every now and then as part of the lifestyle, and they accept it, and they accept it until they get tired of being locked up. So the ones that want to use drugs and the one that they should be locked up, and really they should be locked up for more than 6 months. I do not think that's a severe enough penalty, and it's not long enough to dry them out. It should be a longer period of time. I think a year would be much better. And yeah, and there are some people that say things like, "Well, being a drug addict isn't a crime." Every drug addict possesses drugs, and possessing drugs is a crime. Besides that, almost all drug addicts sell drugs. They do. They if they can, if they have the ability and the connections to do it, they will sell drugs. You're not going to help these people um, uh, with a 6 month slap on the wrist. It isn't going to work, and I predict that. And so I wish I could be more optimistic, but I'm not going to be. I'm not going to lie to you. And as far as, I don't know if I really want to get into it, but I guess I will a little bit. As far as treatment, the general public, I think, believes, I don't know what they believe. They think they uh, uh, somebody goes to treatment and they get this mysterious treatment and they come out and they're all better. Well, it's not the case. And I will tell you, based on my personal experience, they don't have any treatment for drug addiction. Yes, they get a lot of money from the state and all that. They have no treatment for drug addiction. What they do generally is, people will go into a program, and most, not all, but most will send them to meetings like Narcotics Anonymous meetings. And yes, there are some people that will stay clean in Narcotics Anonymous, but for the most part, with hardly any exceptions, what they're doing is they're substituting an addiction to meetings for the addiction that they had for drugs. And if you want to call that a treatment, okay, that's not a treatment. Now, there is a treatment for drugs, but the treatment centers don't have it. And uh, Alcoholics Anonymous talks about it a little bit, and that's the program that both Narcotics Anonymous and AA, they're all based on that. And what AA says, and they're referring to alcoholism, but the same thing is could be said of drug addiction. So they say no human power could relieve us of our alcoholism. No human power can relieve them of their addiction. So that means the treatment centers have no treatment for alcoholism or drug addiction. But yes, it's true. God could and would if he is sought. So 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 the cure, if you really want to know what the cure is to the drug problem, the alcoholism and the drug problem, the cure is, well, it's twofold. It's repentance, and it's also a belief in the Redeemer, and you know who he is. Now, uh, no publicly funded treatment programs are going to say that. Um, they're not going to. They wouldn't be allowed to say it. They'd be accused of forcing religion on them or something. So, to sum up, the laws as it currently exist, the penalties are not severe enough to dry the drug addicts out. They're not. The drug treatment programs really have no solution. Although there is one, and if a person really wants it and seeks it with all the heart, yes, they could find it, but not with these publicly funded treatment models. So those are my thoughts on the subject. And oh yeah, if you want to know why I'm qualified to, I looked it up just for the heck of it, and I've been off drugs for 47 and a half years. So I do know what I'm talking about, and um, I'll give you a prediction. Uh, Both the homeless problem and the drug problem in these Oregon cities are going to get worse. They're not going to get better. The drug addicts don't want treatment. The penalties aren't strict enough, and it'll be more of the same. And so there's my prediction. It's not very hopeful, but I thought I'd say it anyhow. So I've carried on for 12 minutes here, which is probably too long. If you liked the video, you can put a little thumbs up or you can put a little thumbs down. I don't really care. Bye.